And frankly, Congresswoman, walking away like that, it just doesn't play well. People see a man clearly struggling. He asks for help. You're a public servant. And the footage shows, well, it shows you hesitating. Then turning. Not exactly the compassionate image people expect, is it? Mark Jennings leaned back in his chair. Smiled that practiced, sympathetic smile. The one that barely hid the glint in his eyes. He had her, he thought. Live TV, national audience. A little controversy brewing online already. Just needed a nudge. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. Didn't break eye contact. Her stillness was louder than his question. The studio audience shifted, a few murmurs. They'd seen the clip he referenced. A grainy phone video, poor angle, no audio. Just her, a man sitting on the sidewalk, a brief exchange, her turning. Easy to spin. Jennings waited, let the silence hang. His specialty, making guests uncomfortable. Making them fill the void, usually with a mistake. She took a slow breath. Mark, the footage shows exactly that. It shows me stopping. It shows me listening. It does not show what was said. It doesn't show the context. Jennings jumped back in smooth. But context, Congresswoman, does it change the basic image? Man asks, you don't give. Isn't that the takeaway for most people? Simplicity itself. He gestured with his hands, palms up, appealing, reasonable. She kept her gaze level. The takeaway is what people choose to see, Mark. Or what people want them to see. Like you right now. A ripple through the audience, nervous laughter, a gasp, hard to tell. Jennings' smile tightened almost imperceptibly at the edges. Just asking the questions people are asking, Congresswoman. That's my job, playing devil's advocate. Her voice stayed calm, almost gentle. And is the devil advocating for truth today? Or just for clicks? The studio felt colder. The audience was quieter now, leaning in. Jennings shifted slightly, crossed his legs. Look, let's be direct. He asked for money. Did you give him any? A simple yes or no. The camera zoomed slightly on Crockett's face. Waiting. Her expression didn't change. No. Jennings nodded, a small, satisfied movement. No, okay, so a man in need asks for financial help. And a sitting congresswoman, who votes on budgets worth billions, refuses. He let that hang there, the implication heavy. Obvious. He looked out at the audience, as if sharing their assumed disappointment. Crockett watched him. Let him finish the performance. Then she spoke again, her voice still even. He asked for $5, Mark. To get something to eat. Jennings leaned forward again. Exactly, $5 for food. Seems like a small price for a little humanity. Doesn't it? He sounded almost sad about it. A performance of empathy. She nodded slowly. It does seem small. Doesn't it? Which is why I asked him what he actually needed. Jennings frowned slightly, confused. What he needed, he just told you, food, $5. Did you listen to what I said, Mark? Or were you just waiting for the no? He blinked. I heard you say you didn't give him money. Yes, that's what I said. I didn't give him $5. Because $5 wasn't going to solve the problem. It might have delayed it, for an hour, maybe two. But he didn't just need a meal. He needed a way out of needing that next meal. Jennings scoffed lightly, a puff of air. Oh, so you were going to solve homelessness right there on the sidewalk. With all due respect, Congresswoman, that sounds a bit idealistic. Maybe even deflective. The audience chuckled. Jennings had scored a point, back on familiar ground. Ridicule disguised as realism. Crockett's eyes didn't leave his. No, Mark, I wasn't going to solve homelessness on the sidewalk, any more than giving him $5 would have. But I could see he wasn't just hungry. He was exhausted. He smelled like infection. His leg was wrapped in a dirty bandage. He needed more than spare change. He needed care, actual care. So instead of giving him money, what did you offer him? Jennings interrupted, skeptical. A lecture, information on a shelter he probably already knew about. Her gaze sharpened just a fraction. I offered him my phone. Jennings paused, processing. Your phone. Yes, my phone. I asked him who he needed to call. A family member, a friend, a service provider he couldn't reach. He looked at me like he didn't understand the question. Like no one had asked him that before. The studio was utterly silent now. You could hear the hum of the lights. Jennings looked momentarily lost. This wasn't in his prep notes. What did he say? He said there was no one. No one to call. Crockett's voice dropped slightly, holding a new weight. He'd been on the streets for 3 years. Burned every bridge. Lost his ID, lost his phone, lost everything. Except the sign he was holding. Anything helps. Jennings cleared his throat, tried to regain control. So you offered the phone. He said no one to call. Then what? Back to the original point, you walked away. Without giving him the $5 he asked for. The act of kindness he requested. She held his gaze. The kindness he requested was $5, Mark. The kindness he needed was different. After he said there was no one to call, I asked him about his leg. He flinched, tried to cover it more. Said it was nothing, just a scrape. It wasn't just a scrape. You could see the swelling, the redness spreading up his calf. I told him I knew a place, a free clinic not far from there. That I could walk with him, right then. Help him get seen. Jennings looked incredulous. You offered to walk a homeless man to a clinic. During your workday, Congresswoman. My workday involves serving the people of my district, Mark. And sometimes that doesn't happen inside the Capitol building. Sometimes it happens on a sidewalk. So did he go? Did you take him? He looked down at his hands, shook his head, said doctors cost money, even free clinics. Said they'd just tell him to rest, and where was he supposed to do that? He was afraid, Mark. Afraid of the system, afraid of judgment, afraid of the cost, even if it was free. Because sometimes free comes with other costs, doesn't it? Dignity, time, being treated like a number. Jennings shifted again, uncomfortable. This wasn't the narrative he wanted. So he refused the clinic too. Refused the phone call, refused help. And then you walked away. Is that the sequence of events? Yes, he refused those specific offers. And I respected his refusal. Because forcing help on someone isn't help, it's control. But I didn't just walk away. I told him the clinic's address anyway, wrote it down for him. Told him my office number, said if he changed his mind about anything. About needing someone to make a call for him, about needing help navigating the system. He could call, collect if needed. I put the paper in his hand. He didn't look up. And then, yes, I had to leave. I had a meeting about funding for those very clinics. About addressing the systemic issues that lead to people needing $5 on a sidewalk. Jennings seized on it. Ah, so you left him there with a piece of paper. After refusing the simple $5 he asked for. You see how that looks, don't you? How it can be interpreted. How it's being interpreted online. He gestured vaguely, implying the storm of digital judgment. I see how you're interpreting it, Mark. Live for ratings. I see how you're ignoring the humanity of the exchange. To score a political point. Or maybe just to create a moment for your show. The air crackled. The audience was rapt, silent. No more nervous laughter. Jennings flushed slightly. Congresswoman, I resent that implication. I'm trying to understand your decision-making. A decision that on the surface appears callous. You have a platform, you have resources. He had a simple request. Her voice was ice-calm now, but sharp. He had a simple request, born of desperation. And I offered him something more than a transaction. I offered him dignity, agency, a potential path, not just a temporary fix. You call giving $5 humanity. Sometimes, Mark, the easiest thing isn't the kindest thing. Sometimes, looking past the immediate request, to see the deeper need. That's the harder choice. That's the more human choice. Even if it doesn't make for a good soundbite. Or a clean photo op. Jennings tried a different angle, sarcasm dripping. So you're saying refusing to give a hungry man $5 was actually the more compassionate action? Is that the argument you're making? Because that's a tough sell, Congresswoman. A very tough sell. He looked confident again, thought he had her cornered with absurdity. Crockett leaned forward slightly, locked eyes with him. No, Mark. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that reducing human suffering to a $5 transaction. So you can feel good about yourself for 30 seconds. That's the easy way out. For you, not for him. I offered him something that might actually help change his situation. Something that required more from me than reaching into my purse. It required time, attention, respect. He wasn't ready to accept it, or couldn't. And that's heartbreaking. But it doesn't make the offer less valid. Or less human. You keep focusing on the $5 I didn't give. Why aren't you focusing on the real conversation that happened? Why aren't you asking why he's in that situation in the first place? Why the systems fail him? Why a dirty bandage and a potential infection are his reality? Jennings started to speak, but she continued, her voice gaining quiet intensity. Because that's harder, isn't it? It's easier to judge a single moment ripped out of context. Easier to judge me than to confront the actual, grinding, systemic failure. That leaves people asking for $5 on a sidewalk, while you and I sit here under bright lights, discussing the optics. A low murmur went through the audience, not laughter this time, agreement. Jennings looked thrown. He glanced at his notes, then back at her. His usual defenses seemed to be failing. The audience wasn't with him anymore. He tried one more time, a rehearsed line perhaps. But perception matters, Congresswoman, especially in your position. The perception is that you withheld basic charity. How do you reconcile that perception with your role? Crockett held his gaze, a long pause. The camera stayed tight on her face. Then she delivered the line that would echo everywhere. Mark, my role isn't to manage your perception. My role is to serve my constituents. All of them, even the ones who don't make for comfortable viewing. And sometimes, service means seeing the person, not just the sign. His sign said anything helps. Giving him $5 would have been easy. It might have helped me feel better. But it wouldn't have truly helped him. Offering him a path, even if he couldn't take it that day. That was the anything I could offer. Treating poverty like a photo opportunity, or a chance to feel generous for a moment. That's not service. That's performance. The silence in the studio was absolute. Jennings just stared, his mouth slightly open. No comeback, no practiced quip. The audience started to applaud. Scattered at first, then growing. Filling the space. Jennings looked stunned. He looked at the audience, then back at Crockett. She simply sat there, composed, waiting. The applause continued, solid now, sustained. He shuffled his papers, tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. We have to take a break. We'll be right back." The camera pulled back, showing the awkward tableau. Crockett still poised, Jennings visibly rattled, the audience still clapping. The screen went black. Commercial break. But the moment didn't end there. It was just beginning. Someone in the audience had been recording, on their phone. Not the official feed, the raw reaction. The tension, the shift, the final exchange. The applause. It hit Twitter within minutes. Crockett response. Real service. Jennings owned. The grainy phone clip, shaky but electric. Capturing the raw energy shift in the room. Then came the official clip, released by the network trying to control the narrative. Too late. The phone clip was the one that flew. TikTok stitched it, duetted it, analyzed it. Her calm demeanor, his cracking facade. The final lines. That's not service, that's performance. It became a mantra, a meme, a rallying cry. Headlines the next morning were split. Conservative outlets focused on the refusal. Crockett admits refusing aid to homeless man. Tried to spin Jennings as the voice of reason. Progressive outlets seized on the exchange. Crockett schools host on true meaning of service. Viral moment shows Crockett's compassion beyond cash. Cable news panels dissected it endlessly. Was it elitist? Was it insightful? Was Jennings out of line? Was Crockett deflecting? Pundits debated the optics versus the substance. But online, the tide was overwhelmingly with Crockett. People shared their own stories. Times they'd been offered transactional help that missed the point. Times they'd tried to offer deeper help and been rebuffed or misunderstood. The nuance resonated. Her restraint was seen not as coldness but strength. Her words not as a deflection but a clarification. A reminder that complex problems rarely have $5 solutions. A flashback surfaced in Crockett's mind, not on the show but later, quietly. Years ago, before politics, working at a legal aid clinic. A young woman evicted, holding a baby. Desperate, asking just for bus fare to get to a shelter. Crockett had given her the fare, of course, but also sat with her for an hour, made calls, found a loophole in the eviction notice. Helped her file an emergency appeal. The bus fare was essential, temporary relief. The legal help, the time, the advocacy, that was the potential lifeline. The woman got her apartment back, eventually. It wasn't easy, it took weeks, more help. But it started with seeing beyond the immediate request. Seeing the system crushing her, and trying to offer a tool, not just a token. That memory anchored her. The noise online was deafening. But the core of the exchange felt right. It felt true to the complexity she saw every day. The man on the sidewalk, she wondered about him. Did he use the clinic address? Did he call the office? Probably not. The odds were long, the despair was deep. But the offer was real, the respect was real. That had to matter, more than the $5, more than the viral clip. Then, a week later, something unexpected happened. A local news station ran a follow-up story. They'd found the man, name was Arthur. He hadn't gone to the clinic immediately, hadn't called. He'd kept the piece of paper, though, folded in his pocket. He showed it to the reporter, her handwriting, the office number, the clinic address. He said he'd been thinking. Said nobody ever offered him their phone before. Nobody ever asked about his leg like they actually cared. Said it felt weird. Made him feel seen for a minute. He still didn't trust the system, still scared. But the reporter, prompted by the public interest, connected him with a street outreach team. One that included peer counselors, people who'd been there. He was hesitant, but he agreed to talk to them. The news report was careful, didn't sensationalize. Just showed Arthur talking quietly, holding the paper. Taking a tentative first step, maybe. The story added another layer to the online discourse. Proof for some that Crockett's approach, while unconventional, had planted a seed. For others, it was just luck or media intervention. The debate continued, fierce, polarized. But the framing had shifted. It wasn't just about whether she gave the $5. It was about what helping really means. What service really looks like. On TV, Jennings tried to laugh it off in his next show. Made a crack about sidewalk diplomacy. The audience didn't laugh much. His credibility had taken a hit. The charm seemed thinner now. He looked less like a truth-teller, more like a bully who'd misjudged his opponent. Crockett never addressed the viral moment directly again in public interviews. When asked, she'd just reiterate her commitment to systemic solutions. To funding housing programs, mental health services, job training. The things that prevent people from needing to ask for help on the street in the first place. Her office confirmed they were aware of Arthur's situation. Confirmed they were coordinating with the outreach team. Quietly, behind the scenes, no fanfare. The work continued. The ripples spread. Other politicians were asked about it. The Crockett question. How would they respond in that situation? It forced a conversation, uncomfortable but necessary. About empathy versus action. About individual gestures versus systemic change. About whether poverty is a personal failing or a societal one. The YouTube comment sections were battlegrounds. TikTok edits reached millions of views. Podcast hosts dedicated entire episodes. The anatomy of a viral takedown. Beyond the soundbite, what Crockett really said. The moment resonated because it felt real. Messy, complicated, unsatisfying in its lack of a simple, happy ending. But true to the ambiguities of life. There was no victory lap, no gloating. Just the quiet echo of her words. That's not service, that's performance. And the image. Her calm under pressure. Him losing control of the narrative he tried to force. The audience shifting from passive observers to active participants in the judgment. It became a case study in communication, in power dynamics, in how a single, well-placed moment of truth, delivered with restraint, can cut through the noise, can reframe the entire conversation. Even if just for a little while. The outrage eventually faded, as outrage does. Replaced by the next news cycle, the next controversy. But the clip remained online, shared periodically. A reminder of the difference between looking good and doing good, of the power in quiet conviction, of the homeless man named Arthur, and the congresswoman who offered him her phone. Not just $5. Something harder, something more. Something that, for a fleeting moment, shocked everyone into listening, into thinking, and maybe, just maybe, into seeing things a little differently. The silence after the applause. The uncomfortable respect in the air. That lingered longer than the noise.